Welcome back to the workshop, everybody. So glad you could be with me here today. Walter here at the workbench. So as you know, lately I've been rough planing some red oak. And I wanted to speak with you today and share some thoughts on moisture content in wood. And I don't want to get into all the stickering and stacking and all that to keep it flat. But what I did want to touch base with is moisture in wood and seasonal movement. What I'm planing here is quarter grain or quarter sawn material. This material will be the most stable in so much as staying flat. Once you've flattened it, of course. But even from the sawmill, if you sticker it properly when you get it fresh and you dry it properly, it will be the most stable. Now, what will happen is from the, I believe this is the sapwood side, from the sapwood side to the heartwood side, one side will shrink more than the other because the movement is in this direction, not this direction. Wood does not shrink from the center of the tree to the outside. It shrinks along the tangent, the rings of the tree. So the rings are going straight through here, so that means it's going to shrink this way. There is a big difference between drying wood and seasoning wood. We can rapidly dry wood, and you can do it by putting it in the sun. You can do it by hanging it, suspending it in the air so that it has air all the way around. It'll dry faster. You can put it in all sorts of kilns, from conventional kilns that are run by hot water, steam injected kilns. You can use dehumidifiers. You can use what they call a pre-dryer, which is just fans in a room that push air through the wood. And then, of course, there's radio frequency kilns and vacuum kilns. They're all meant to encourage moisture loss. And without going into that completely into deep, I studied that for years. The biggest thing I will tell you is if you try to take moisture from wood too fast, you will, if not visually, you may structurally damage the wood. So this wood is still air drying. And I got it last summer. I think it was early last summer. And we had a very wet season last year, so it didn't dry much. I put it into my other building where I have heat and I keep other tools and other equipment and other lumber and truck and trailer and stuff like that. So once the heat kicked on for winter, I was able to force the water molecules to get excited and leave. And they would leave the wood. So you go from 30%, 20%, and so on. And you keep sticks between the wood to allow air to go all the way around. So now that we are coming out of the winter, this wood has almost reached what I would call its initial equilibrium. And that means it's pretty much down as dry as it's going to go for this time of year in its first season. Remember I said difference between seasoning wood and drying wood. In its first season, this is as dry as it's going to get. Now, if I go and take these rough plane boards and sticker them, put them up on a shelf, and forget about them. And come back 1 year from today. They will be in their second season. They will lose more moisture. However, if I choose to build something with this right now, I can. I just have to allow for some additional wood movement as we go into moist season and then back into a drier season. So, when you're testing for moisture, the first test you learn over time is your hand. Your hand can feel the air, okay? You move it around, you can feel the air. Your hand can feel the air if it's cool or if it's hot. You put this near a light, you put it near the light, you feel the warmth. You take it away, you feel the cool air. So, you put your hand on the wood. If the wood is radiating back your body temperature and it feels warm, then there is less moisture in the wood. If there's more moisture in the wood, you will put your hand down and it will feel cold because the moisture in the wood is pulling the heat away from your hand and you're feeling the cold. So you will learn, that will give you an indicator, are we wet or are we some degree of dry? So right now I put my hand out on this, and while the room is about 55, 60 degrees, it does not feel cold. But if you want to get scientific, you need a moisture meter. And there is a wide variety of moisture meters out there. I like the moisture meters from Lignomat. This is the Lignoscanner D. This is a pinless. This uses a pad. See that pad back here? You have to have that pad in a flat contact with the wood in order to test it. So, this will give me probably within a 1 to 2% variation, but it's fairly accurate. I've done some oven dry tests with it to check to see. I also have a pin meter. It has pins. But if this were a pin meter, don't ever rely. You can do this as an indicator, but don't ever rely on taking a pin meter and pressing it into end grain. Why, you might ask? If this end grain has been exposed for more than a second, it will either lose moisture or gain moisture rapidly, depending on the room, on your humidity. Now, if I were to cut this open right in the middle and stick a pin meter in instantly, yes, I'd get a reading, but that's a destructive test. You're destroying the wood. If this were a pin meter, I always like to go across the grain. I've seen people go along the grain. Try both. See which works better for you. Another thing I would never rely on, even though we do it with a pin meter, is testing the edge of a board. Once again, if this stack is on a shelf somewhere, all of these edges are exposed to the air. So they will either be drier or wetter than the center of the board. In the lumber mills, they will take a board and they will mark it out for sample testing. And they will actually cut sections off at a foot or 2 foot in. Then they'll take a 1-inch sample and they'll oven dry it and they'll get accurate readings. But that's a destructive test, and that's done at a lumber mill where they're testing 100,000 board feet in a kiln. So the reason why I like the pinless is because is no destruction, and I can go right to the middle. Okay, I'm turning it on. I can go right to the middle of my board, and as long as I have similar boards underneath, I can leave it lay like this. And I press down just a little bit to make sure I have full contact, and I'm reading 9.3, 9.4, and I'll move it, and I'm getting the same 9.3%. So what I'll do is I'll mark out, and I'll write 9.3%, and I will date it, and I will mark down that I'm using the 60, the number 60 setting on this one, which is red oak. So I'll date it, which today is February 16th, 19, and I'll put red oak 60. All right? So now I've got a record. I've got a record of what the moisture, the percentage is of this board in the center within the thickness of it. Now, to verify that, I'll turn it over and I will check it on the other side. 9.3, 9.4, 9.3. So, yeah, I'm good on both sides. Now, this board is rough planed. It's been ripped. It's been end trimmed. This will get stickered. I will use, more than likely I will use 1/4-inch stickers. And I will sticker this. And I'll have a whole stack of these and sit them up on the shelf. And if I need them along the way, I will use them. However, if they sit up there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and I go back to the same day and month, 2 years down, and I test that moisture level with the same meter, I'll know how much more moisture it will have gained or lost. So just wanted to give you I guess you call it a primer or a primer on moisture in wood, okay? And there's lots of videos, lots of famous people have talked about it. I like the way Roy Underhill discussed it many years ago, and he even built a hygrometer and all that other stuff. But wood, once it's cut off the stump, begins drying out because the water can no longer travel through the board. But it can leave the surfaces, it can leave the edges, and it will shrink, it may warp, it may cup, it may twist, it may bow, it may crack. So I hope that helped somebody, even if it's just one person. That would make my day. And I'm so glad you took time out to visit with me. I really appreciate that. If you found something useful, helpful, maybe entertaining, give this the old thumbs up, like that. And somewhere up there, there's a subscribe button. If you haven't already, and you're thinking about it, go ahead and subscribe and ring that bell. This way you get notified when I put up another video. Any questions, comments, suggestions on other topics you'd like to discuss? Leave those down in the comments section. And most of all, head out to your shop. Go make some shavings. Walter out.